It was 10 years ago, in the aftermath of the November 2015 attacks here in Paris. The name Molenbeek hit the headlines, several of the terrorists involved coming from the district in Brussels. Indeed, it was even Molenbeek from where the only survivor of the operation, Salah Abdeslam, was arrested. Television screens and in newspapers around the world, Molenbeek Saint-Jean became synonymous with radical Islam and social exclusion. 10 years later, Molenbeek is still trying to turn the page. The most densely populated part of Belgium, home to nearly 100 different nationalities, even attempted this year to win the title of European Capital of Culture in 2030. Beyond declarations of intent, what has really changed in Molenbeek? Policies to prevent radicalisation been successful? How have the residents, often stigmatised, experienced a decade in the spotlight? Well, for France 24, Alex Le Bourdon with Dave Keating revisit Molenbeek.
La quasi-totalité des terroristes vient d'ici, vivaient ici en Belgique et plus précisément à
Molenbeek, épicentre de l'islamisme radical en Belgique.
L'enquête se concentre sur cette commune bruxelloise de Molenbeek.
10 years ago, this place became the center of worldwide media attention. On November 13th, 2015, the Paris attacks left 130 dead and more than 400 wounded. Among the terrorist attackers, several were from Molenbeek or had frequented the area.
When you're told that one of your children or someone you know has committed a horrific act, your first reaction is shock. You think it can't be true.
Yet, as the hours passed, this actor, who works in Molenbeek, had to face the facts, especially since, after the attacks, the sole survivor of the jihadist terror cell managed to flee to Belgium. Today, when he passes the house where Salah Abdeslam lived, Ben Hamadou always thinks of the victims.
No one is prepared for this kind of vile and unspeakable act, for this tragedy. So it was a shock for most of us, because no one suspected the terrorists would leave Molenbeek to commit this kind of act in Paris. That's when we as artists ask ourselves, what is the place of art when we experience moments of tragedy?
Even before the attacks, Ben worked with this theater company, whose goal is to make culture accessible to all. The performances take place under this big top tent, which travels from neighborhood to neighborhood in Brussels. On March 18, 2016, when Salah Abdeslam was arrested in Molenbeek after 4 months on the run, the actors were in the middle of a performance, just minutes from the site of the police operation.
We heard gunshots and then we just kept playing. We only found out afterward that he had been arrested. And the next day, the mayor at the time decided to shut everything down. Well, we wanted culture to continue, for people to be able to continue living, to continue hoping, and so we kept performing.
Molenbeek is brimming with talent like Ben's. As a result, 10 years after the attacks, the municipality has taken on a major challenge.
What's the goal? For Molenbeek to be the European capital of culture. Do we deserve this title? But it won't be easy.
Madam, Molenbeek is the best.
Yes, Molenbeek's the best.
Fatima Zabou is leading this ambitious project with great energy.
It's a completely wild project. Molenbeek had this idea of becoming a European capital of culture because we know it suffers from a rather negative image abroad. Many people know Molenbeek, but they don't know Molenbeek for the right reasons.
They set off on foot from the town square, heading toward the European institutions to submit the application. The procession attracts a few curious glances and kind messages from residents of other neighborhoods, a stark contrast to the harshness of some comments on social media.
I would be delighted if the residents could feel valued, if we could talk about them in a different way.
Molenbeek
only comes up in negative news.
It would be more positive to show that these are people, just like you and me. They didn't choose to have so much violence in their municipality.
Violence that the people of Molenbeek prefer not to think about today as euphoria takes hold.
Look, the treasure's here.
This dossier is a plea in favor of the municipality and its cultural assets.
Leaving Molenbeek, crossing the canal, and arriving at the North Station to submit this candidacy, which was truly driven by the vibrant people of Molenbeek. We're going to win. There's no choice. In fact, we've already won.
For us as a municipal authority, it's also a way of getting back at Molenbeek's somewhat negative image.
However, it's difficult to erase the reputation of this Brussels municipality. Even before the Paris attacks, several jihadist attacks had a link to this lower-income neighborhood. Mohamed Fahmy advises the authorities on counter-terrorism practices. 10 years after the attacks, he believes that the influence of Salafist and Muslim Brotherhood-linked networks is still very real in municipalities like Molenbeek and its neighbor, Schaerbeek.
These two currents of Islamism are trying to recruit as many Muslims as possible from Europe in these two municipalities. The fundamental work should not be done at the security level, but at the social educational level. And in a context of budgetary constraints, we are seeing a relaxation of public policies.
Another concern, the new profiles of jihadists. In 2 years, the number of cases involving minors has doubled.
These are primarily self-taught individuals who sometimes naively, sometimes consciously disseminate propaganda content on their own Instagram or TikTok accounts.
Reaching out to young people from disadvantaged backgrounds is precisely the goal of the association. Today, this small mobile caravan sets up near the Black Ponds area, a poor neighborhood, the ideal breeding ground for Islamist recruiters. But what this association focuses on above all is school dropout. In Belgium, the Brussels region is the hardest hit, and the numbers are rising. To try and identify critical cases, the team relies on these signs.
The idea is really to approach people who come towards us who stop in front of these signs.
They have personal development mantras, video games to attract younger people, and above all, a punching bag.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well done. What? You don't like school? Wait, I'm interested. What don't you like about school?
I don't know. They talk too much. I don't like it.
On this punching bag, if you look closely, you can see that there are labels on it like family, play, school, police, street. And so, through play, we can create dialogue. For example, when a young person hits the work label really hard, you can ask them, "Hey, why are you hitting work so hard?" "I don't like school." And so you can explore why they don't like school.
Salut, ça va?
Local authorities are the first to support Molenbeek's bid to become the European Capital of Culture, a title likely to bring funding to the municipality, one of the poorest in Belgium.
Alors, comment ça va?
This Molenbeek native from the Albanian diaspora is standing in for the elected mayor, who has been absent for several months.
Actuel bourgmestre faisant fonction.
At the head of the municipality until 2012, another socialist, Philippe Moreau, was accused after the Paris attacks of favoritism toward the very large Moroccan community in Molenbeek, accusations rejected by the current mayor.
The policy implemented during Philippe Moreau's tenure was a welcoming policy that addressed the core socioeconomic problems. So, who are the populations being hit hardest by the various economic crises today? It's still people of foreign origin facing discrimination. These are phenomena that leave a population economically vulnerable. But this isn't a matter of favoritism.
Take a breath, okay?
Everything's fine. We're very calm.
After months of work, the day of reckoning has arrived for Fatima Zibou and her team. In a few minutes, she'll know if Molenbeek has succeeded in its bid.
The panel recommends the city of Le.
One person's joy is another's disappointment, but Fatima Zibou remains determined.
We're going to continue because the people of Molenbeek deserve it. They need it. And it's for them that we're going to keep fighting. Aren't we? We're going to keep fighting.
But the mayor doesn't hide his frustration. With this title, the promise of a better immediate future for the population vanishes.
This would have been the center of Molenbeek 2030. The jury members wanted something more conventional, so they went to a city with half the population of Molenbeek, where the financial resources exist, where the population is much wealthier. This is a disconcerting lack of vision on the part of this jury, which could have focused on something that would have benefited a municipality that truly needs it.
D'apporter des solutions dans une commune qui en a vraiment besoin.
A focus on culture as a counter to the numerous recruitment mechanisms at work in Molenbeek, perpetrated by Islamist networks as well as drug gangs.
It's the same thing used for religious radicalization and by criminal networks that come to recruit. To recruit, you have to go where there's socioeconomic vulnerability, because the propensity to be influenced is greater when dealing with a vulnerable population.
Je suis pas tout seul à être tout seul, ça fait déjà ça de moins dans la tête. Et si je comptais combien on est? Beaucoup.
We find Muna still fighting against kids dropping out of school. Here, she's leading a group of unemployed young adults, many of whom prefer not to show their faces.
This music particularly resonates with me because I thought about suicide at one point in my life when I was much younger. But it's important to understand that just as we can heal our bodies when we're sick, we need to heal our minds too when we're not well.
This is the first time she's included a mental health workshop in her training programs. It was the statistics that finally convinced her. Since 2019, suicide has been the leading cause of death among 15 to 45-year-olds in Belgium. Stromae's lyrics resonate with this group.
He manages to put words to things I couldn't express. It helped me understand certain things, even though it took me time to recover.
Objectively, suicide is perhaps the only tangible answer we can find to the absurdity of life.
Muna is convinced that mental health must be at the heart of prevention policies, particularly in disadvantaged neighborhoods like Molenbeek.
Those young people back then, 10 years ago, well, maybe if we'd given them a voice, if we'd listened to them, if we'd perhaps recognized them for who they are here in our community, maybe we could have avoided some things. I'm not saying we could have avoided everything, but perhaps. Meanwhile, they were seen and identified by another group that wasn't necessarily well-intentioned, and they were drawn into something they might never have gotten involved in if there had been a different approach here.
Providing guidance, support, and prevention so that we never forget the horror of what happened in Paris 10 years ago.